A young man enters a courtyard and never re-emerges. Was Corrie asleep in a bin? Or could someone have put him in there? Welcome to Vanished Voices UK, your new favourite spot for curious missing persons cases, true crime stories, and in-depth investigations. The heartbreaking mystery of Corrie McKeague, a soldier asleep in a bin. On the night of the 23rd of September 2016, Royal Air Force Regiment gunner Corrie McKeague vanished without a trace in Bury St Edmunds, Suffolk. Nearly 9 years later, his disappearance remains one of the UK's strangest missing persons cases. Today, we delve into every factual detail, who Corrie was, the events leading up to his disappearance, how the massive investigation unfolded, the theories that emerged, and what remains unanswered. This is the story of Corrie McKeague. Corrie McKeague was born on the 16th of September 1993 in Perth, Scotland. He was raised initially in Cupar, Fife, and moved to Dunfermline at the age of 9 after his parents divorced, living with his two brothers under the care of their mother, Nicola Urquhart. He attended St Margaret's Primary School and then St Columba's High School in Dunfermline. In 2013, Corrie joined the Royal Air Force Regiment, and by 2016 was serving as a senior aircraftman, gunner and medic with No. 2 Squadron stationed at RAF Honington in Suffolk. Family and friends remembered him as a lively, sociable and conscientious young man who took pride in his career. After his disappearance in September 2016, Corrie's girlfriend April Oliver revealed in January 2017 that she was 2 weeks pregnant with his child. Neither had known of the pregnancy at the time he went missing. Their daughter, Ellie Louise, was born on the 11th of June 2017. Corrie McKeague spent the evening of the 23rd of September 2016 with RAF colleagues in Bury St Edmunds, visiting pubs and clubs including the Bear Inn and Flex nightclub. At around 3 AM, his friends decided to return to RAF Honington, and Corrie exited Flex alone. At approximately 3:25 AM on the 24th of September, CCTV captured him entering a gated service yard behind a Greggs bakery, known locally as the Horseshoe. He was wearing a pink shirt and white jeans. No further footage shows him leaving that area on foot. Between about 3:30 AM and 6:30 AM, Corrie's mobile phone registered on a mast near Barton Mills, roughly 12 miles northwest of Bury St Edmunds, via the A1101. Covering that distance on foot in a recorded time is implausible. Investigators concluded he must have been in a vehicle or, as later inquiries surmised, possibly inside a bin collected by a refuse lorry. His final ping occurred around dawn in the Barton Mills area, and the phone has not been used since. This next section will look at the investigation. Suffolk Constabulary launched Operation Phonetic immediately after Corrie was reported missing, treating his case as a high-risk disappearance. Officers canvassed local businesses, reviewed town centre CCTV, and reenacted Corrie's last known movements in an effort to reconstruct his final hours. By November 2016, investigators had assessed over 2,000 hours of footage from around the Horseshoe service yard. 39 individuals were captured on the same CCTV camera between 3 AM and 5 AM, the 2 hours bracketing Corrie's last sighting. 23 of those people remained unidentified. To narrow down that list, police set up a public CCTV pod at the Bury St Edmunds Christmas Fair on the 24th to the 25th of November. By the 4th of December, 13 of the previously unidentified individuals had been positively named. In mid-December 2016, volunteers alongside the Suffolk Lowlands Search and Rescue combed roughly 5 square miles of woodland between Barton Mills and RAF Honington. They focused on possible road traffic routes that Corrie might have taken after leaving Bury St Edmunds. That search concluded on the 17th of December, when police officially declared the area cleared after finding no evidence of Corrie. In January 2017, a black plastic casing, the back cover of a Nokia Lumia, was discovered near the location of Corrie's last phone ping. Because it contained no battery, SIM card or circuitry, investigators could not definitively link it to Corrie's device. At the same time, police briefly examined Corrie's usernames on certain private websites provided by his family to rule out the possibility of secret rendezvous. Those inquiries yielded no connection to his disappearance. In February 2017, investigators began a systematic search of the Barton Mills landfill following the discovery that the bin lorry which collected waste from the Horseshoe area was carrying a load in excess of 100 kilos. This was far heavier than the original estimate of around 11. The search was designed to cover approximately 1,100 square yards to a depth of 25 feet, with teams sifting through waste at a rate of roughly 3,000 tonnes by May 2017. Suffolk Police estimated, by that time, the landfill operation had cost in the region of £1 million, making it one of their most expensive missing person investigations to date. On the 1st of March 2017, a 26-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of attempting to pervert the course of justice after providing misleading information about Corrie's belongings, but he was released without charge on the 7th of March when police concluded he had made an honest mistake. Concurrently, on the 7th of March, officers confirmed that recalculated data showed that the bin's lorry was more than 100 kilos, reinforcing the theory that Corrie could have been inside a refuse bin collected by that vehicle. By the 21st of July 2017, some 20 weeks into the landfill search, Detective Superintendent Katie Elliott announced that the operation at Barton Mills was concluding, with no positive identification of Corrie's remains. Earlier in April, a human skull was recovered, but forensic analysis determined it belonged to a woman who had died before 1945, ruling it out as Corrie's. Between February and July 2017, search teams had sifted through more than 6,500 tonnes of waste. Subsequent efforts focused on incinerated materials transferred from Barton Mills to Red Lodge and then to an incinerator at Great Blakenham. In August 2017, police confirmed that bone fragments recovered from the incinerator were not human. In parallel, Corrie's family had offered a £50,000 reward for information, which was due to be withdrawn on the 17th of February when no new leads had emerged. They reinstated that reward in August 2017 after the landfill search showed no results, hoping to encourage fresh tips. In October 2017, Suffolk Police announced a second, more targeted search of the Milton landfill adjacent to the original site. This was supported by a specialist East Midlands unit that upheld the bin lorry theory. Despite this, officers indicated that the search would be wound down by Christmas 2017 due to a lack of new evidence. On the 26th of March 2018, Operation Phonetic was formally stood down, with Suffolk Constabulary stating there were no realistic lines of inquiry left. By that point, the force had spent a total of £2.1 million on the investigation, marking it as the most expensive operation of its kind in Suffolk between 2009 and 2019. Throughout this period, Corrie's parents, Nicola Urquhart and Martin McKeague, remained convinced that his remains lay somewhere within the landfill, noting that Corrie sometimes slept in bins. They publicly criticised decisions to hand areas back to landfill owners and pursued legal avenues to prevent disturbance of potential evidence. Despite exhaustive searches, no conclusive trace of Corrie's body was ever recovered. This next section will look at theories surrounding the disappearance of Corrie. The most widely cited explanation is that Corrie climbed into a bin, perhaps to rest, and was subsequently collected by a refuse lorry bound for Barton Mills landfill. CCTV footage, as mentioned previously, shows him entering the gated service yard behind Greg's, but never leaving on foot. Soon after, his phone pinged at a mast near Barton Mills. Further supporting this theory, Police later recalculated the weight of that bin load at over 100 kilos, rather than the initial 11 kilos they thought. This suggested that Corrie could be inside. Forensic pathologists at the inquest concluded that compression asphyxia in association with multiple injuries was the likely cause of death, consistent with being inside a refuse container, crushed by compacting mechanisms. A counterpoint to this is that Corrie took pride in his appearance and sense of responsibility. Friends have argued that he would not voluntarily climb into a dirty bin. Moreover, despite sifting thousands of tons of waste, no human remains conclusively linked to Corrie were ever recovered. The next theory asks whether foul play or a third party could have been involved. Some investigators and commentators have suggested that Corrie might have encountered a third party after leaving Flex nightclub. Retired Detective Colin Sutton, for example, noted that Corrie walked away on his own. He would likely have appeared on other CCTV cameras en route. Sutton speculated that someone else might have escorted him out of the camera's field. Additionally, one person matching Corrie's clothing, light-coloured trousers, appeared briefly on footage in the Horseshoe area, but could not be traced. This unidentified figure raised questions about whether someone else was present when Corrie arrived. A counterpoint to this theory is that no eyewitnesses reported seeing Corrie with another individual leaving the Horseshoe yard. Law enforcement found no DNA, fingerprints, or credible lead indicating a stranger's involvement. All interviewees who came forward were eventually cleared. The next theory asks whether Corrie may have voluntarily disappeared or harmed himself. Early tabloid reports suggested that Corrie might have chosen to disappear. Those rumours implied he had personal stressors, such as career pressures, and might have walked away intentionally. However, Corrie's family strongly disputed any notion of suicide or deliberate disappearance. In the days before he went missing, he had made plans for Halloween with his brother and appeared upbeat in text messages. At the inquest, while it was noted that he had been drinking heavily that night, possibly impairing his judgment, there was no evidence of intent to take his own life, so the coroner recorded a verdict of accidental death. The final theory asks whether Corrie may have been trafficked or exploited by criminal groups. A small but vocal subset of online commentators speculated that Corrie might have been picked up by criminals, drug traffickers or human smugglers once he left the Horseshoe. They argued that because his phone appeared to travel by vehicle, that someone could have offered a lift. A counterpoint to this is that investigators found no evidence, no conversations, no CCTV sightings of an unknown vehicle picking him up, and no credible tip to support a trafficking angle. His phone's movement aligned exactly with the route of the waste collection service rather than a discrete drop-off point for an illicit activity. All theories remain underpinned by the same facts: his last confirmed CCTV sighting at the Horseshoe, the unexplained journey of his phone, and the absence of any further trace after dawn near Barton Mills. While no single explanation is free of unresolved questions, these four hypotheses represent the main possibilities that investigators and Corrie's family have considered. This next section will look at the current status of the investigation and the inquest findings. Suffolk Coroner's Court opened a full inquest into Corrie McKeague's death on the 7th of March 2022, which concluded on the 22nd of March. In their narrative verdict, the jury found that Corrie died on the 24th of September 2016 at approximately 4:20 AM in Bury St Edmunds. This was said to be the result of compression asphyxia in association with multiple injuries, having climbed into a commercial waste bin. They recorded that impaired judgment due to alcohol consumption was a contributing factor. His body was never recovered. As mentioned previously, Suffolk Constabulary had officially stood down Operation Phonetic on the 26th of March 2018, stating that no realistic lines of inquiry remain. All active searches of Barton Mills landfill and surrounding areas ceased at that point, though case files remain open should new information arise. Following the inquest, Corrie's family publicly accepted the coroner's conclusions, while emphasising that no remains had been found. His mother, Nicola Urquhart, noted that although the inquest offered closure on cause, unanswered questions persist about the precise circumstances of his final movements. His father, Barton McKeague, reiterated his belief that Corrie's body lies somewhere in the landfill and expressed hope that advances in forensic screening might one day recover microfragments. Corrie's girlfriend, April Oliver, and their daughter, Ellie Louise, continue to honour his memory. April has spoken of raising their daughter with hope that, if any new evidence emerges, it will be passed on. RAF colleagues who knew Corrie have reiterated that he would never have intended to go missing, and that the inquest's findings align with their understanding of his character. Nicola Urquhart, Corrie's mother, has remained steadfast that her son would never have chosen to disappear voluntarily. From the earliest days of the investigation, she publicly argued that Corrie was likely inside the waste disposal system rather than having walked away. In July 2018, she reiterated that belief, stating that she was haunted by unanswered questions, despite the police concluding he was probably in a bin lorry. Barton McKeague, Corrie's father, has also accepted that his son is deceased, but continues to press for any possibility of recovering remains. In April 2018, Barton said he believed Corrie's body lay somewhere in the Barton Mills landfill and described it as essentially irretrievable, noting that Corrie had sometimes slept on or in bins, a habit Barton feared led to his son being crushed. Friends and RAF colleagues consistently describe Corrie as responsible and unlikely to climb into a dirty bin. In December 2016, those who knew him spoke on camera about how he wouldn't have intended to go missing. They recalled that he sent a last message saying that he would meet them later, showing no signs that he had planned to leave. This next section looks at some of the unanswered questions in Corrie's disappearance. What were the exact circumstances in the Horseshoe yard? The final CCTV image shows Corrie entering the gated service yard behind Greg's, but no footage captures him leaving on foot. Although it seems unlikely, did he leave? Was there a brief blind spot in the cameras, or did someone else assist him in exiting the yard? And why did he choose to enter a dimly lit service yard filled with bins, rather than remaining on more illuminated streets nearby? Where are his remains if he has sadly passed away? Despite sifting around 4,000 tonnes of waste by mid-2017 and conducting a secondary focused search, no human remains conclusively identified as Corrie's have been found. Could advances in forensic screening, such as enhanced DNA filtering techniques, still locate microfragments in the existing landfill stockpiles? What was the cause of the bin weight data anomaly? Early in the investigation, the bin lorry's load was reported at only 11 kilos, but a later recalculation showed it exceeded 100. How did this significant miscalculation occur in the first place? Might there be additional unexamined data within the refuse collection records? Could someone else have been involved? Were all 39 individuals that were captured on CCTV in the Horseshoe area between 3 AM and 5 AM eventually located and interviewed? Were all follow-up questionnaires and interviews truly conclusive? Despite his dad suggesting that Corrie had slept in or on bins in the past, it seems like a very unusual thing for a young man to do, especially one dressed in light-coloured clothes. What was Corrie's state of mind? At the inquest, it was noted that Corrie had been binge drinking, potentially impairing his judgment. To what extent did intoxication influence his decision to enter that service yard? Could binge drinking have really led to a young soldier taking refuge in a bin? Corrie McKeague's disappearance has stretched across nearly a decade of intensive investigation, multi-million-pound searches, and a public inquest. On the 22nd of March 2022, a Suffolk coroner's jury concluded that Corrie died in the early hours of the 24th of September 2016. His impaired judgment, linked to alcohol consumption, was cited as a contributing factor, but his body has never been recovered. As mentioned previously, Suffolk Constabulary formally stood down Operation Phonetic on the 26th of March 2018, stating there were no realistic lines of inquiry remaining. Although active searches of Barton Mills landfill and surrounding areas ceased at that point, all case files remain open should fresh evidence emerge. Corrie's family publicly accepted the inquest's findings while emphasising that without physical remains, many questions endure. His mother, Nicola Urquhart, described the inquest verdict as offering some closure regarding cause of death, but noted that precise details of his last movements remain unanswered. Corrie's girlfriend April Oliver and their daughter Ellie Louise keep Corrie's memory alive. April has said that she raises their daughter with the hope that one day all the answers may come to light. RAF colleagues maintain that Corrie would never have intended to go missing. Official records now list Corrie McKeague as presumed dead, yet lingering uncertainties such as possible CCTV blind spots, the possible involvement of a third party, and the absence of physical remains mean the ultimate question of how exactly and where did Corrie perish remains unanswered. As always, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and remember, every missing person deserves to be found. Like, comment and subscribe to see more new and cold missing persons cases from the UK.